Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things Podcast. I am Sam. Joining me to discuss the latest episode of Ahsoka, the Star Wars series exclusive to Disney+. It's my partner in crime, it's Stefan.
Hello there.
How you doing, my friend?
I am good, sir. How are you?
Yes, I am okay. This is an interesting episode to talk about. It's very rare, because Star Wars fans are quite passionate, let's put it that way. It's very rare. Whenever I see something Star Wars, and like the vast majority of it I enjoy, and I go online, it's like, it's a real nice atmosphere around this, people talking about it, social media. It's very rare that I see something that appears, I'm sure there is, but it appears that everything I've seen to be universally loved.
I can understand why.
Yeah.
Like, I have one note written for this episode.
And what is your one note?
Live action expletive Clone Wars. That's it. That's my note. That is that's all I have. Oh my god! This episode.
Well, we got a lot to dive into, which we will. Gonna carry out a little bit of admin first. Podcast admin, everybody. So we get a lot of messages come in. A lot of people used to listen to our show via Stitcher in the US. Thank you. It would appear that system is migrated to, I think it's called Pandora. I see basically they've got the same setup because people are still messaging through via their service. So thank you for staying with us despite Stitcher closing down. And we get sort of like quite a few. Now I'm guessing I must have, and I forgot I did it, but I must have mentioned a little while ago a suggestion that we had in our Discord. In the Discord chat, someone suggested that we do just one episode where it's a Q&A for the hosts. So people who listen can send in questions either about us, or about anything that we talk about, or anything else. Like, I watched this show. Have you ever seen it? Anything at all? Anything TV, movie, entertainment related, or a question to us. Yeah. And I sort of said it like, I don't think there'd be much interest about it. It would appear that I was wrong. It would appear that whether it's because everyone listened to the Christmas special last year and thinks they could have a lot of fun with this, which could be mean. Yeah. Or there is a genuine interest to do it. So I'm going to put this out there today. If you are interested, then please get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us via any of the socials, via the Discord chat. You can get in touch with us via the messaging service via Pandora, which I know a lot of people like to do, as they did with Stitcher. You can email us directly. You can email into the show. It's sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. If you visit our website, it's all there, which is all the W's, stuffandthangspodcast.com. There's a section there like contact us, so you can use that as well. So if there is interest to do that, we will do it.
Am I brave enough to make a questions and answers thing on Discord?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to happen. There's very few people on Discord. I get the impression that a lot of people either just don't like downloading an extra app or something, because it is free. Yeah. Or people are just like, no. They know who I am then. I much prefer sending stuff in anonymously.
Yeah.
Which is also fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. Another bit of admin is a couple of sort of messages we have had in about different shows and stuff. So to answer one, no, we don't really have set days. We basically try and put the show out as close to the release date of the show we're talking about as possible. However, that can vary depending on circumstance. But mostly we try and get it as close as we can. So the Ahsoka series here in the UK is Wednesdays available.
Yeah.
So we try and get it out the next day, which is today, which is Thursday. Also with movies, it can be a little bit difficult because, if something comes out, is this the timing? Do you discuss it when it's in the cinema? Do you discuss it when it's, released to streaming and more people have seen it? So it's something we try and kind of get the balance right on, but whether we do or not, I don't know. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I know.
I know. It depends on the film.
Yeah, I think with the Marvel stuff, maybe we move them a bit sooner, possibly. I'm not sure. I know the next movie we're talking about, we're waiting for that to hit the streaming platform, aren't we, Sam?
Yeah, okay. So the next film that we're going to be talking about here on the podcast is going to be the Barbie movie.
I haven't seen it. I really need to see it.
Because I've been kind of forced into it.
Blame Lucky Lucy on Discord.
Yeah, maybe. Not just her. We've had a few other messages as well. So, thank you. Yes, we will talk about that. Unless there's a lot of people who just say no, don't talk about it. You can save me. Please message in and say, Sam, don't you dare. Don't bring down the tone of this show by talking about the Barbie movie. Don't inflict it on yourself. My daughter tells me it's good, but I don't know if I want to watch it. So just sort of general stuff. Obviously I get the usual feedback coming in about different things. One lovely person has commented that I sound like a farmer on the show, which thank you very much. Yes, I guess I do.
Pirate farmer, get it right.
I prefer pirate, but I do understand it's more like a pirate and a farmer had a baby, and that's how I end up sounding. But so thank you for that. You know who you are, and you've made me say it. So yeah, you. He's so mean to me. But right then. So now we're going to move on into Star Wars. We're going to talk about the show, but I've got a little Star Wars thing I learnt this week before we dive into the Ahsoka series, because this is something I never knew. And loads of people might know this, but when I learnt it, I was like, this is great. I love this bit of information. It's from so Luke Skywalker, as we all know, he's given his father's original Jedi lightsaber and he loses it. The Empire Strikes Back, and then he builds his own, or he has his own then in Return of the Jedi, and it's green.
Yep.
Okay. As years and years have passed, we've learned about lightsaber construction. They come from kyber crystals, and you need a kyber crystal. And at that particular moment in the Star Wars galaxy, kyber crystals were quite difficult to come by. So as I've got older and I've learned more about the information, I have always sort of wondered to myself, well, how did Luke come across a green kyber crystal? Was it that was pure luck?
Yeah.
No. So after the Phantom Menace and Qui-Gon Jinn is killed, his green lightsaber falls to the ground and is picked up by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Qui-Gon was his master, kept that lightsaber. When Luke went back to old Ben's place on Tatooine, this is now from a book which is filled in the gap, he discovered the old lightsaber broken but with the kyber crystal intact. He uses Qui-Gon Jinn's kyber crystal from his lightsaber to construct his own, and that's why it's green.
Well, fuck.
Yeah.
Damn, so that's cool.
That is cool, isn't it? That is like
happy. That is officially now headcanon. I'm happy with that.
No, it's real. It's actual
is it actual
canon. That is actual canon. That is.
Because I know they took a load of the books and went, nope.
Well, basically, when Disney bought Lucas, they said, yeah, nothing's canon anymore. But Dave Filoni, etc., have corrected that. So that is a canon thing. That is actually, yeah. So basically, when he's got that green lightsaber, that is in essence Qui-Gon Jinn's, and that's Luke using it. So that's I learned that this week, loved it. So if you didn't know that, I hope you liked that as well. If you did, whatever. Okay, so this is Ahsoka Episode 5, and the title of the episode was...
Part 5, Shadow Warrior.
Dun dun dun. Whew, where do we begin?
Mate! What an episode.
Yeah.
Like, genuine. So you know how we always say about lengths of episodes?
We do.
This episode, I looked at the timings. This episode could have been 27 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I'd have been happy.
I wouldn't.
Like, if this episode had just been all the flashback stuff with her and Anakin, and then her waking up underwater was the end of the episode, I still would have been happy. Like, that is how good the episode was.
Yeah,
the rest of the episode was still freaking awesome. Everything that happened after that was still awesome, and this was an incredible episode. But, yeah, like, that 25, 27 odd minutes, wow.
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of break it down into bits. So we're gonna focus a little bit on because I wanna come to the Ahsoka and Anakin stuff sort of at the end. So we're gonna focus on the General Hera, Captain Carson, and young Jacen, and of course Chopper. We can't forget Chopper.
No, the legend.
So they're at the kind of Stonehenge that's there. That is literally a Stonehenge, is what it's being called. And there's a couple of bits that happen which I sort of wanted to pick up on. First thing is obviously Huyang the droid is there, and he gets almost like an emotional line from a droid of "I told them to stay together."
They never listen.
Yeah. I thought that was quite. Okay, wow, yeah, that's kind of hard hitting, and also, yes, you did, mate, and I picked up on that last week, and they didn't bloody listen to you, did they?
No.
Like, minutes later, it's like, you carry on, I got this. No, stick together, idiots.
Yeah, it's weird, like, we don't normally see droids with much emotion.
No, we don't.
Genuinely seems like completely like, oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, so that was interesting to me. That was kind of like, oh dear, yeah. And the other thing that kind of happens in amongst all these scenes that are here is, young Jacen is very, very force sensitive. He's obviously the son, son of a Jedi, and he is very, very much in tune, and he can hear the world between worlds sitting there. He can pick it out from the ocean waves. He can hear lightsabers, and he gets his mother to like calm her mind so she can listen, and she hears it too.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. It's really interesting to me that he is untrained, completely untrained, but is clearly very naturally gifted and therefore quite powerful.
Could he be the chosen one?
No, he's not.
To bring balance to the force.
No. We've had that. Move on.
Didn't work well.
No, we've had... No, he did. He balanced it. There used to be like 2 Sith and 1,000,000 Jedi, and he killed all them, and there's balance. See? He did it. And I don't think that was the prophecy everyone thought it was going to be, but that's how it worked out.
In fairness, yeah.
So, one of the things... I was quite interested in that. I was kind of like, oh, that's really interesting. This character is kind of new Star Wars, and you look at the timings of where this is now and his age... That would mean in the sequel trilogy, like, oh, that's interesting, because obviously he doesn't feature in that, but he must be around during that time, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Well, what if he goes to Luke's academy to train, and Kylo Ren kills him?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, there's something that, like, I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing very, very well, which is kind of filling in the gaps between the original trilogy and the sequels. And in doing so, I think they are helping the sequels massively by, like, the First Order. All of us kind of watched the sequels like, what? The Empire just came back? What the hell? What they are doing is kind of filling in this gap, like with all the cloning stuff we saw with Moff Gideon and everything. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That leads into Palpatine, what he was trying to do, and all that stuff. The heir to the Empire with Thrawn, that's the big end game for them that they're building towards. And you just generally sort of get the impression of, you can actually see how this is happening. The kind of naivety and stupidity of the New Republic, just like refusing to listen to people say, look, there's still a problem out there. We can't ignore it.
They're very much so. We won. What are you on about? Shut up.
Yeah.
Fine. Get on with it.
Yeah. All the ex-Imperials are now working for us. There's nothing to worry about. And it's like, really?
What do you mean they could rebel from the inside? Shut up.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. And it's kind of interesting, because I think in seeing it this way and being laid out like this, we're all going, oh, okay, now we see how it happened. Now we see how the stupidity happened. But of course, we do know there are certain characters who aren't going to be fooled by this, and we've seen that with Hera here. We've seen it in Captain Carson across various series in the Mandoverse. Yeah. And one of the things that happens in this episode, which was a complete throwaway line, by the way. So I've watched this episode twice, and the first time I didn't mishear it, but I didn't realise who they were talking about. So the Chancellor now is Mon Mothma, and that, right?
Yep.
So the Chancellor. In this, Carson comes out and says, we're overdue at HQ. Like, we're gonna get fried. You know, we're in shit if we don't show up. What do you want me to do? General Hera's like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, look, Senator Organa's covering for us, but she says, like, she can't cover us for much longer. The first time I watched it, I thought the Chancellor, right? I was thinking, oh, that's Chancellor so-and-so. Oh, and I even wrote a note to myself, like, it's great, because we saw her in that meeting a bit like, oh, I want to help, but I can't. And clearly she's then come away from the meeting and gone, yeah, you go do this, I'll cover for you. And I was like, oh, that's really good, it's really good. And then when they said it, when I watched it the second time, I heard the word Senator, and I was like, oh, well, that's not her, because she's the Chancellor now. And genuinely, I was so not hearing it properly. I was like, "Oh, they've made a mistake."
And then it clicked.
And then it clicked, yeah. And then it was like Senator Organa, but Bail Organa's dead. All the Organas are dead. Oh my God, there's one left.
Yeah, she is.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's Leia.
Yeah.
This is a reference to Leia Organa, who is
Princess
now a
Leia
senator.
is covering for the rebels in true Princess Leia style.
Exactly, yeah. She is... General Hera is known to her, and she is covering for her, and Carson. And it was like a real kind of, oh, wow, that's an amazing moment. And I loved that. I was like absolutely over the moon with that. And then, like I just mentioned, I've learned this about Luke's lightsaber being green and stuff.
Yeah.
And that has been made canon.
Yep.
Well, there's something from the books that isn't canon at the moment, but perhaps with the fact that I've just heard she is a senator is going to be. So in the books of this period, Leia is a senator. She is Senator Organa. However, she is run out of the Senate and kicked out and moved when people learned that her father was Darth Vader.
Ah.
Yeah. And I
mean, that would be a tricky obstacle to kind of overtake, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It'd be an interesting chat with a few people. Yeah. You know, the guy who murdered half the galaxy, wiped out the Jedi, everything. Yeah, oh yeah, God, I hate that guy. Yeah, I call him Dad.
Yeah.
Ooh. So that's kind of it. So yeah, Senator Organa. It was so funny. Like, I heard it but didn't hear it, if that makes sense. And then when I finally did, I was oh my God.
Yeah.
Over the moon. Later on, following all the... I mean, we're going to talk about Ahsoka and Anakin in isolation, alright, everyone, so don't panic. But later on, after Ahsoka returns and she's saved from the water, one of the things she does is she holds the map, the sort of orb thing, to try and get a sense from it. She talks about how sometimes from objects you can get a sense, or like a memory. The object holds it, like in the Force. We've seen that before from Quinlan Vos quite a lot. I've not really seen it from any other Jedi, so I'm kind of loving the fact that Ahsoka is in her older age, obviously still very in tune with the Force and is very powerful. She has the abilities that she's always had. So
I believe it's in the Fallen Jedi computer games.
It is, yeah,
as well.
Yeah. You sort of, if you're trying to track someone, you sort of put your hand on the ground and you sort of sense it.
Mm-hmm.
But Ahsoka, so I want to put this to you because I'm kind of interested in this. Ahsoka, in essence, gets a replay of Sabine handing the thing over, the conversation and everything, hands it over. She doesn't reveal that really. She just says they've taken Sabine, not Sabine went with them.
Yeah, Sabine handed over the plans to the biggest bad guy we've known for a while and just walked into the sunset with them. Probably wouldn't have gone down as well.
No, but Ahsoka knew it, and she didn't word it that way. Do you think that was deliberate, or like do you think Ahsoka looked at it and went, fuck it, all right, I'll cover for you, or does she genuinely see it as, oh no, she didn't have a choice, she's been taken?
I think she didn't tell them on the principle of we can go and save her. I think they were more likely for people to agree, let's go save Sabine, rather than, so Sabine went with them by choice, so maybe we can go get her back.
Yeah.
I think she kind of went, I think she kind of played it more like a political kind of, okay, we need to go get this back. We need to stop what's happening.
Yeah.
So therefore, how's my best way to get people to stop what is happening? Let's say they've captured Sabine. Yeah. This is now a rescue mission.
Do you think she calculated that quickly? I mean, I can...
I think so. Someone like Ahsoka, I think she's wise enough and experienced enough.
Yeah, I did find it interesting that it was the wording of it. It's not like, what happened. It wasn't like, oh, Sabine went with them. She wants to get Ezra back. It was, which is clear. The memory makes that abundantly clear to her. She just says, oh, they took her.
Yeah.
And you're like, not really.
Not quite how that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. She is a prisoner. I mean, the guy said he wouldn't harm her, but she is in cuffs. She is sort of at
obviously
their
very
mercy.
loose cuffs, so she doesn't get hurt. Yeah.
Obviously. So the other thing that obviously then happens, which is a big part, is the New Republic fleet does arrive. Carson has to go and stall, which I loved.
So
hey,
funny.
Who are you? Like, you know who we are. Oh no, you've not sent me your identification. I don't know who you are. I'm on a top mission. You're not on a mission. That's why we're here. You're not authorized.
I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, it's like, yes, I am, and it's like it's top secret, so I can't tell you. Where is she? Can't tell you that. Please send over your vindication. He's like, look. Either you tell me, or it's like, oh, okay, but you're not going to believe me.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I like Carson. He's a character that's popped up a few times, and the more you kind of, really like him, which is great.
And I well believe like that conversation. So the plan is she's going to go and fly into its mouth. It's not going to eat her or swallow her because it doesn't like the taste of metal. It's fine. But they're then going to jump. She's going to stay in the mouth and hyper jump with. And you imagine just hearing that, you're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. So basically, the enemy constructed a giant hyper ring that jumps between galaxies. To catch them, because we don't have the map, we're going to trust a space whale known as a Purgle, fly into its mouth, and then that's going to jump into hyperspace, and we just kind of hope it understood what we wanted.
Yeah.
By the way, you might want to get out of the way because you see all those blips on your radar. Yeah, that's a pod of Purgle, and they're heading right at you. So like we said, Ahsoka kind of connects via the Force, tries to communicate like, "Hey, do you know where that big ring went?" The whale probably went, "Oh no." And yeah,
what's a big ring?
Yeah, I'm hoping the whale communicated back. Yeah, I know exactly where it went. Yeah, no worries. Hop on, I don't mind. Rather than communicating back, I really don't know. I mean, I can have a crack if you want.
We all know that conversation went, hello.
You're finding Dory?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was going to say, for this part of the episode, I was watching it in the evening, and I had just been handed my 9-month-old daughter as her mum got the bottle and stuff ready for bed. As the Purgles kind of came on the screen.
Yeah.
She was fascinated by them.
Oh yeah,
oh,
they're
the
great.
excitement of a space whale on the TV.
Yeah,
she was
amazing,
loving it. I was like, okay, we have a new favourite Star Wars creature. Okay.
We have a Star Wars fan. That's what I like to
do
hear. Ahsoka with Hu Yang, who's less than enthusiastic by the plan, but goes along anyway.
Yeah. When
They
Ahsoka
fly.
goes, maybe. What do you mean, maybe? What?
Yeah, she's very relaxed at this point. It's like, oh, you stop being such a Jedi. Stop being so friggin'. Yeah, it'll happen or it won't.
Yeah.
So yeah, they fly into the Purrgil's mouth. The Purrgil and the pod make the jump into hyperspace. End of episode. So that is that. There wasn't anything else to talk about, was there? Okay, everyone, be back next week. Hope you enjoyed the show.
May the Fourth with you. Goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah, there is something else to talk about. So those are the other bits. I know there's obviously loads you can read into all the sort of stuff that's going on with all of that, but to be honest with you, the crux of the episode
is full of breakdowns. Like I have seen, I don't think I've actually seen this many episodic breakdown Easter egg videos hit YouTube within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Well, within 12 hours.
There's
When I loaded up YouTube last night, I was like, whoa.
It's funny because I said to you in the morning, I was like, I want to watch it early because I can't put anything on for spoilers. And you were like, well, I never see any spoilers for anything.
No. And then that night I loaded up YouTube and I was like, whoa!
It's everywhere, yeah. So I couldn't move for like episode 5 breakdown. I was like, okay, just switch this off because
no, thank you.
Otherwise, I'm going to see one of them and it's going to be like, oh, I can't believe Anakin stabbed her in the face. What?
Who stabbed who?
Yeah. So Ahsoka and Anakin. So the end of episode 4 ends with "Hello, Snips." Aster, I didn't see you. Episode 5 opens with him basically calling her old, which I don't know about you, but I was just like, what? Just like, dude, you don't say that to a woman. Come on, man. That's
but
not
Anakin
right.
so would.
Anakin so would. I mean, he's just like, you got old. And she's like, yeah, that happens. She technically, I believe, is older now than Anakin was when he died. Yeah. So, roughly, I don't know exactly, but it would have been similar anyway, because I thought she was around 40-something, but a few people online have said, no, she's getting closer to 50. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, that kind of makes sense, I guess. But yeah, so we have this kind of initial, almost amusing. Now, after episode 4, there was theories everywhere that, okay, that's not actually Anakin. Hayden Christensen, obviously, and it's Anakin, the embodiment, but we think it's the embodiment of the Son, or we think it's the embodiment of the Father, the kind of Holy Trinity of the Force. And there was all these theories and all these different bits and pieces, but I actually threw that out the window fairly quickly when he was just taking the piss. I was like, that is Anakin.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, that's him. Just a side note, by the way, and in all of this, how much fun do you think Hayden Christensen's having with this?
Oh, he must be loving life. Like, he's back. He's back playing a role, and he's getting all the love that he now deserves for it.
Yeah. It's just interesting, isn't it? As you kind of look at it and you think of all the prequel crap that they get, and he kind of almost sort of just drifted away afterwards. I mean, I've seen a couple of other films he's in and he's good, but to come back to this all this time later, to be in the Obi-Wan series, to get the kind of love that he got from all the fan convention and stuff that we saw, which was wonderful, to then also feature in this, and you can almost feel like a joy he has. And one of the things he said in an interview, which I thought was so good, is that he said once he signed back on to play the character again in Obi-Wan, and obviously now, as we all know, Ahsoka, which we all kind of knew anyway, but he tried to pretend. He said he watched the Clone Wars. He watched the animated series from start to finish. And he said the reason why, he's like, because he said, I got to play this character in isolation.
Yeah.
So I sort of got my scripts, and this is where he is now, play him. This is where he is now, play him. He said, but the greater context given to the character by the Clone Wars, which is something I've said to everybody, if you've not watched it, please get over the fact it's an animated show, because it's not a good show. I don't care what
so
people
good.
say.
It is so good.
And it is so, you have such a greater understanding of that period of time and the characters, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and of course you meet and get to know Ahsoka. So, even if you watch the Ahsoka series in isolation, you think, oh, is there any point going back? Yes, there is. Go back and enjoy it. But yeah, he watched all of it, and he was like, I therefore went into this with a much greater understanding of who Anakin is and the relationship. And I think a lot of people watching this live action will go, yeah, he really did, because you can tell he is acting in these scenes, as the Anakin we know from the Clone Wars. And I thought that was really clever, because of course he never would have done that. That's not something, he's not like he can pick that up from, oh yeah, when I did that, that series back in whenever it is, I'll just be that version again. He had to sort of learn it, and then be it. And I thought he did a brilliant job. I really liked it.
Yeah, the Anakin he portrays in the kind of, I don't know if they're not flashbacks, but in the memory bits, that Anakin is like just spot on. The way he says stuff and the words he uses are just like perfect.
So we got a kind of a symbolism thing which I picked up on, and I don't know whether it's actually something that's done. I often like to think with stuff like this. I overthink some things. Mm-hmm. They're stood on like a like a walkway in the world between worlds, and when you've got a shot over Anakin's shoulder looking at Ahsoka, you can see behind her the pathway she's on is winding. It like curves to the right, and then you see it come back on itself. And then when you look behind Anakin, it has a dead stop. It literally just goes to like a platform, and that's it. There's nothing more than that. It's done. Yeah. And I kind of looked at that and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, because he's saying to her, like, okay, you've still got a chance to live. We know Anakin is dead, so his path has an end behind him. Hers still has twists and turns to go. So that was, I kind of looked at that and thought, okay, I'm going to make a note of that. I could just be massively over reading on that, of course, but I kind of thought that was interesting. What did you think about, because obviously you're kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, what's going on? This is not a Force ghost, but this is Anakin. When he says to her, okay, you're going to have lessons, and she's sort of like, really? Aren't I a bit? I was like, you're never too old to learn something new, Snips. I'm like, I love that he's calling her Snips.
And the interaction between them is so Clone Wars sort of interaction as well. Like, you can tell, like, she's obviously done her research into this as well.
Oh, yeah, she has, yeah. Yeah, and she, she says, okay, all right, Master, what's the lesson? What did you think when he fired up the lightsaber and said, live or die?
I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And then the next couple of lines were just phenomenal.
Okay, so what were they? Remind us.
Ahsoka, I will not fight you. To which Anakin replies, I've heard that before. And I'm like, oh, Luke says that to him.
Yeah.
Just the little nods that they give throughout this series. Oh, so good.
So, again, this was great, but this again painted this into me. So I'm like, I'm trying to work this out. It's the world between worlds. It's not a Force ghost. I know that. I know because of the sarcasm that he laid on her about you've got old and stuff like that. I do think it's Anakin. But, like, is this a memory of Anakin? Is this in her head? I'm trying to work it out.
Yeah.
But when he said that, I'm like, that's a Vader memory.
Yeah.
So this isn't like Anakin from the Clone Wars.
This is Force Ghost, dead Anakin. Yeah.
Yeah, this is him. This is Anakin. This is him with all the memories of being Anakin and all the memories of being Vader. And I'm like, holy crap, okay, that's quite, just for a throwaway line, it's like, that's actually got a lot to it. So they kind of go into a lightsaber duel, again, similar to Luke, when Luke says, I'm not going to fight you, and he's like, you're unwise to lower your defenses, and then they fight.
Yeah.
Ahsoka straight away obviously fires up, and they do sort of exchange a few things, and Anakin does the spin. I mean, he does the spin in his hand. I mean, I don't think Hayden Christensen will sign on to anything if he doesn't get to do that.
No,
which is fair enough.
Yeah,
like, I can do it. I learned how to do that. It took me bloody months. Every lightsaber fight I have, I'm doing it. Yeah, that's fine, Hayden. Crack on.
yeah. This is what I've been doing for the last 10 years, practicing.
But one of the things I noticed is he's not holding back. Like, this isn't he isn't sort of like a practice swing. This isn't like a kind of Paddy Frost good. He is launching at her.
Yeah.
And there's several times he literally like thrusts the lightsaber like a stab, and you're like, holy crap, okay. So I'm watching that. I'm like, Anakin, what are you doing? Are you actually trying to kill her? You know, is this actually Vader then? and so all this is going through my head, but then he pauses again. He's backed her into this position, and she's like, you know, I know all your moves, almost like a little cocky kind of, you taught me everything you know.
She
you
like
can't,
kicks
you
him
know.
in the side of the head on the way
Yeah.
round, didn't she? I was like,
Yeah,
whoa!
Yeah, and then, but do you think that she had a little bit of a kind of a, you know, you think you're all that?
Oh, yeah.
But, Anakin, you know, you taught me everything you know. And he's like, I haven't taught you everything. And then cuts with his lightsaber through the floor and she falls.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
I mean, I love that. Visually, that was stunning. Like, they really, the world between worlds and everything, I was like, yeah, this is really stunning. This is really good. And she's falling. And as she's falling, I don't know if you noticed it. I noticed it. And a lot of people are like, no, I didn't really know it. You see her shrink. And I'm like, but I'm really paying attention. I'm like, okay, that must be a visual thing. You know, this is odd. She looks smaller. Is she smaller? And then I saw a clone trooper run past.
Yeah.
Like out of the fog. And I'm like, oh, we're getting Clone Wars flashback. We're getting
we
action
are!
Clone Wars.
Yeah, we are!
And I instantly, seriously, like chills, which I'm almost embarrassed to say this, like over a TV show or a film, but like goosebumps on my arm, hair stood up. Amazing. I was like, oh wow, we're getting this. And then of course she kind of emerges, and I'm like, that's young Ahsoka. That they've cast someone younger, and
the person they cast.
You're about to point this out, okay?
I noticed it instantly. I'm guessing you noticed the same thing.
Yeah. So
Ariana Greenblatt is her name. Bit of fun. IMDb. At the age of 11, she was only a couple of years into her career. She was named Hollywood Reporter's top stars under 18 to watch.
Okay.
In 2019, at 15, she was IMDb's top stars to watch in 2023.
Okay.
I'm seeing all this sort of thing on here. Like she is like proper, like talented and looked on from the Hollywood sort of thing as like one of the next big stars. She's been 65, the film with Adam Driver or Kylo Ren. She's like the main character with him in that, and at such a young age to kind of carry a film with him. And then you go back just slightly further, and it's young Gamora from Avengers.
I knew her from. Yeah, that was what I recognised her from.
For a young kid, my gosh, she's in the Barbie movie. She's in all this, and I'm like, the girl's like what, 15, 16 years old, and she is already like big name out there.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know her name. Even when you said it, it's still gone in one ear out the other. But I did look at her and think, I know her. I'm sure I recognise her.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and it was young Gamora. I thought, oh wow, yeah, that is who I thought it was.
Yeah.
So we do have young Ahsoka. We have clone troopers, and then we have Clone Wars Anakin. The hair's changed. They've de-aged him again slightly, and they've done it a very good job.
Yeah.
And he's wearing his Clone Wars armor.
I know, that was cool to see. That, just him in his Clone Wars armor, I was like geeking out.
But here's the thing, again, which is interesting. This isn't a memory, because she is still her, but in her younger self. So this isn't just like a reenactment, like a vision, like, oh, looking into the past, because she says, this is the Clone Wars. Like, this is my first... She's talking as if she is her older self, but in her younger body.
Yeah.
But the line, this is the Clone Wars, followed by Anakin, yeah, no kidding. It's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, look around.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that.
Very much, yeah. That's it made me chuckle, because I was like, he's replying very much as Anakin would have done in the Clone Wars.
Yep.
But at the same time, quite clearly, these are the two people we just saw in the World Between Worlds.
Dueling,
replacing the actual people that were there.
Yeah, so he is playing the role, and she's like, what about my training? He's like, this is your training. And he's carrying on, and they carry on their assault. And then we have a scene where there's a lot of wounded, dying clones.
Yeah.
And you see Ahsoka sit down next to one, put her hand in, the clone reaches out and touches her as well. Yeah. And if you, again, and this is something I know a lot of people haven't watched, so I'm going to do a little fill-in here. During one of her first missions, Ahsoka disobeys Anakin.
Can I be a real geek and tell you it's season 1, episode 19?
There you go. And she leads a group of clones on an attack, and a lot of them are killed, badly hurt. And this is the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
So you see her very emotional, and then we have this great scene and dialogue between the two, which is basically her, so many died, and Anakin's like, yeah, it's war. It's like, yeah, you can't, war is like...
I love this conversation, because he's like, well, my master told me that I had to learn politics and peace. However, that's not how, times change, and now I've got to teach you how to be a warrior.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, yeah, like, Anakin, the first 2 films is very much about politics and,
being a guardian of the peace.
Yeah, guardians of the peace, and it's all democracy and all this sort of thing. And it's like, times did change massively.
So there's 2 parts to this, which is interesting, and I think is worthy pointing out and thinking about when it comes to Star Wars. The first part is Ahsoka, her entire life has been at war. She fought in the Clone Wars, she left the Jedi Order, fought for Mandalore, then fought in the rebellion against the Empire, and this is her now still fighting. Yeah. She is still having to do that. So when she says to him, like, this is all I am, you train me as a warrior, this is all there is to me, it's actually quite sad. It's like really kind of, this is actually really quite depressing.
She doesn't
when you think of it that way.
She doesn't know peace and democracy. She just knows war and fighting.
Yeah, and after the rebellion in the Empire fell, you kind of felt that maybe that'd be it. But no, she's now, there's Thrawn, she's carrying on. There is no kind of stopping for her. The other part of it, which I think, I don't know about you, but in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka's young. But it's an animated show, and I guess, I don't know why, but I guess it kind of doesn't really register her age that much in it. Seeing a young actor play this role in live action, it seemed to hit me more like a ton of bricks that the Jedi really did make a lot of horrible mistakes and were kind of messed up.
Oh, yeah.
When you consider that basically she's, I think depicted in this, 13, 14, maybe 15 years old. And she's basically out there leading a war. The Jedi, I mean, that's not right, I know I'm judging it from my, human standards here, and they're in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
And she's a friggin' Jedi. But she's lived her entire life. Like, literally, she was taken as a kid to the Jedi Order, which, again, when you think about that's pretty messed up. Literally kidnapping children.
Yep.
Raised in a temple, trained, and then, as Anakin says here, I've got to train you to be a warrior, because when I was being trained, we were a guardian of the peace, but now we're not. Now we're fighting a war.
Yeah.
And if I want you to survive, you need to fight. What did you... I mean, at this point, or at any point during this, what do you think he is trying to get to? What do you think, taking her to this, showing her this, what do you think is his objective? Because he appears to be in control of it. He appears to be showing her what he feels she needs to see and relive or see again to try and get something. What do you think he's driving at?
I honestly have no idea. I thought it was just trying to make her give the fight to live.
Yeah.
That's all I can kind of think of. Like, he's proving to her that you have the fight in you, so go and live. Don't give up. Don't die now. Keep fighting. You need to live.
So with this initial sort of scene, I'm not going to call it a flashback because I don't, it's not quite a flashback.
No.
It's it's not what would have happened because they're them older selves. So it's kind of a bit odd. You do see, by the way, I need to point this out. You do see Captain Rex here. You don't hear him at this point, but you do see Anakin talking to Captain Rex. You see him. So at this point, I was kind of like, I remember all the quotes from Timur Morrison about how annoyed he was that they didn't get him in for different stuff. I'm like, don't tell me they've just done this and they've not got him back. Later on, you do see Commander Rex and hear Timur Morrison voice him. So I was like, yeah, there he is. Yeah. I'm dead happy with that. That's good. But yeah, the second part then is the Siege of Mandalore. Now, the Siege of Mandalore, I don't think you've watched yet because it's the final season of Clone Wars, and I don't think you got there.
Not quite.
But the Siege of Mandalore arc is incredible. A little bit of background: the Siege of Mandalore happens at the exact same time as the events of Episode 3, the film. So Anakin and Obi-Wan, whilst Ahsoka's doing this, they are rescuing the Chancellor during the Battle of Coruscant, which you see at the start of Episode 3.
Yeah.
So the Siege of Mandalore is happening at the exact same time. So that's why Ahsoka's there by herself, and Ahsoka is leading a battalion of clone troopers alongside Bo-Katan to retake Mandalore from Darth Maul and his Mandalorians called Death Watch.
Yep.
Now, this scene's kind of epic. You get to see live-action Ahsoka ripping through Mandalorians, Death Watch.
Yeah.
And she does. And she does it, and it's almost like she does it like muscle memory. I'm in this, I do it, and then she stops like, I've lived this once. Like, I'm not carried on doing this. And you see Commander Rex charge off, and she just sort of stands there watching. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It was almost like I'm not playing this game. Like I've lived this. I don't particularly want to live this battle again. It wasn't exactly fun the first time. And then the thing that I loved is Anakin walks up behind her, and he's like, "I don't remember this." It's like looking around like, I don't remember this fight. And she says, "No, you weren't here. This is the Siege of Mandalore." And he's like, "Oh, it looks like you did well." He's like looking around, sort of like, "Yeah, you kicked ass. I'm proud of you." And then of course she's so like, "This is all I am. This is all it is." And he's like, "No, you're a lot more than that. You are all of me. Like, I am my master. You're all of this." And then we kind of get to what I think is what he's been driving at. She says, "Yes, there is a lot more to you. You are far more dangerous than anybody ever realized." And he kind of goes, "Is that what this is about?" I don't know about you, but that interaction was almost subtle, but at the same time massive. Like, I know Anakin is come back to the light. Yep. After the events, after the Vader is killed, he kills the Emperor, he's come back to the light, he's kind of redeemed himself a little bit. Do you think, knowing everything he did as Vader, he would refer to that almost so flippantly as like, "Is that what this is all about?" What, the fact I went on a mass murdering binge for a couple of decades? Get over it, kid. Come on.
Yeah, just kind of like, come on, build a bridge, over you get. Come on.
But
like,
you see what I mean? It was such a flippant sort of, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
But I do just want to say as well, by the way, the earlier scene when she's next to the clones and they've been dying and Anakin leaves, there's this incredible moment as he's running off with lightning strikes and he transforms to Vader.
Mate, that scene is phenomenal.
That's such an amazing visual. And the thing as well, which I picked up on, which I thought was interesting, is when he's running as Anakin, he's surrounded by clone troopers. And when the lightning flashes, it's just Vader on his own.
Yep.
And I kind of thought, from a symbolism point of view, is interesting because Anakin was surrounded by friends, comrades, colleagues, but then he was alone. And that was when he became Vader.
Yeah.
Because everyone got stripped away. The Emperor made it so everyone around him who could redeem him was kind of stripped away. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, I could be overthinking that, but it could just be the clones ran off,
Yeah.
So
they left me, bastards.
Yeah. So I thought I just want to point that out. But going back to it, it was at this point I came up with a theory about what Anakin is getting at, and I think it kind of, a lot of people have said, oh, Ahsoka's not the same character. And I've said all along, well, of course she's not. When you saw her in the Clone Wars, she was a teenager. When you saw her in Rebels, she was in her 20s, or 30s. She's now in her, 40s, 50s. Of course she's not the same character. She's not going to do the backflips and all this stuff now,
No.
She could probably, she probably has to get up 4 times a night, So I was just, I was just kind of like, she's older. You got to expect her to be a bit different. Obi-Wan Kenobi's character changed massively during the time we saw him.
It's very true, yeah.
Like a whole other actor. But the thing that I find fascinating, or the thing I find interesting, and this is where my theory comes in, is I think what Anakin is driving at is she is suppressing her Anakin training. She is suppressing the side of her that has that fight, that aggression, that kind of, that aspect of it. And I think I said to you on a previous podcast, she's being more Obi-Wan. She's being more kind of like thoughtful, stepped back, stroke the beard, sort of, don't rush in, don't do anything. Whereas Anakin always was, now come on, let's go. And if you think about what's depicted in this, he's constantly saying to her, like, come on, let's go. Come on, Snips, keep up. He's charging forward. And I think what he's trying to say to her is like, no, you need to realise that just because I fell, just because I went bad, just because this doesn't mean that what Anakin taught you, that part of you needs to be suppressed. You shouldn't fear it. So he says to her, right, you've learned nothing, back to the beginning, live or die. And at this point his lightsaber is red.
Yeah, and his eyes have gone.
His eyes have gone Sith.
And it's like, oh shit, son.
And then he goes for her again and attacks her, and he gets a kick in, and when he kicks her, she's back in the world between worlds as a grown up.
Yeah.
And then they continue to sort of fight, and her sabers go, but she uses a technique, by the way, which Anakin used on Count Dooku to disarm Dooku.
Yeah.
She does it to him and holds the saber to him, and there's a moment where the red saber makes her eyes go red. Like the reflection gets her eyes, so it's like she's gone Sith. She's gone dark side.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't. She deactivates the saber and throws it away and just says, I choose to live.
Yeah.
And he goes back to Anakin. The Vader, the eyes, everything.
Yeah.
He's holding me out and he looks happy. You can see
the smile's back. And
this is what he was trying to get her to do. He became Vader to fight her in that moment, to show her, you are not me. You will choose not to, strike the killer blow. When he disarmed Dooku, he knew she should have been a prisoner, and he cut his damn head off. Ahsoka just threw the saber away. I'm not killing you. That's not me. I'm not that.
Yep.
And he had this big smile on his face, like, yeah, okay, Snips, you're learning, you're getting there, you're okay.
Yeah.
My one thing I'm going to say about this, and I really hope in the remaining episodes something else happens. I felt this whole kind of arc in this. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's beautiful. It kind of tied us all in." To me, this feels like the beginning. This feels like Anakin kind of him appearing to her in this moment and doing this almost like a lesson. Didn't feel like a complete arc to me. This didn't feel like the way it ended, like him vanishing, her waking up in the water. It felt to me like there's more to that.
She has more to learn still, do you think, from Anakin? Or
I think more to learn, but I think
along the way a bit.
I think possibly more to learn. I think perhaps after this interaction she will be more at peace in terms of understanding she can be, because I think the point, like right at the beginning he says, "Yeah, you lost the fight," and she's like, "I don't remember." He's like, "Trust me, you lost." I think he's driving at, to beat this guy, you need to use all your skills, and you're not using all your skills. You're suppressing what I taught you. Like, you're afraid. Like, "Oh no, if I fight like Anakin, I'll end up like Anakin." And he's like, "That's not going to happen because you're not me. You are better than me." He's like, you are different to me. You can use these skills. You can use everything that you know, be all that you are, and not worry because, I cocked up, not you.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but to me, this felt like a beginning of a journey between the two of them that I want to see continued. Could just be greedy me wanting more Anakin and Ahsoka interactions, but yeah.
No, see, I'm the same. In the sense of I want more. However, I want it to be done correctly, if that makes sense. Like, if it's to be the Force Ghost or interactions like this, I really desperately don't want them to now, like, overdo it. Like, they're going to see online that having Hayden Christensen back for this episode in the clip, the fandom has gone absolutely crazy.
Well, yeah, but the episodes are already filmed. It's not like they're going to go, "Quick, get him back in for another episode."
No, I'm thinking more going forward. Like, I'm hoping Ahsoka gets a second season.
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. Like, I'm really enjoying this season, so I want more of this.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to suddenly turn around and be a case of throwing Anakin wherever they can because, hey, he got the views up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Baby Grogu. I remember we don't know, they proper milked that one. There was toys, T-shirts, posters, everything.
Yeah.
I don't want them to go down that route. However, if it's done how this episode was done, it was perfect. Like, it was so perfect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. Mate, that's all my notes. Did you have anything else from the episode you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so.
No, I think we covered everything. So massive thank you to everyone for listening and for interacting. We get a hell of a lot of messages whenever we talk about Star Wars, so thank you so much. I do reply. If I'm late, I apologise. We do have a lot. And hopefully we'll have a lot for this episode as well, because I hope there's a lot of people out there who enjoyed it. I enjoy listening to theories as well, so drop them to us on a message. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you hope for the rest of the series as well. If you would like a series 2, if you'd like to see more Anakin, let us know. Until next week, I hope you all stay well and healthy. We'll be back hopefully around Thursday again to talk about episode 6. Until then, everybody, you all take care.
And may the Force be with you.
One is never too old to learn, Snips.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.